I'm Andrew Kirsch, former intelligence officer with CSIS, and today I want to talk about foreign interference and the drip, drip, drip in the news that CSIS has been advising the government on threats to our elections and the questions about what our government did and did not do about it and where we go from here. I'd like to kind of take a moment to explain a little more about CSIS does, right? CSIS is mandated to collect, analyze threats to the security of Canada. There are four main threats: espionage and sabotage, foreign influenced activities, terrorism, and subversion. And what CSIS does is collects information on that, processes that into intelligence, and then advises the government. That is the role. To a limited degree, puts out a public report, maybe does a little bit of PR to explain to Canadians what the threats and risks are. But for the most part, the government is the client, right? And then the government receives the information and has to make a decision. So when the prime minister says, look, the government makes a decision on who cannot be a candidate, and that is 100% true. The government is responsible for making the decisions. So I think we get lost in the weeds a little bit when we start pretending like that is the kind of question we're asking here. The questions we should be asking are, in my opinion, did CSIS provide enough information to the government? What kind of information did they provide to the government? And, with the information that was provided, did the government make an appropriate decision, right? It gets really challenging where we are asking the Liberal government to make a decision on an outcome that, was suggested favored them and holding them to a standard that said you should have done something. I look at it like maybe CSIS didn't tell them enough. And perhaps they received a report and says, you might want to think about this candidate. And they said, that's not enough to disqualify a candidate. On the other hand, perhaps the reporting is more in lines with what, they've been saying is that CSIS urged or strongly suggested. They can't mandate, they can't demand, but they can strongly suggest, strongly imply that something be done. And the government said, well, no, we're not going to do anything. We don't know. What we do know is that foreign influenced activities, threats to our democracy are real. Nobody has suggested they are not. Nobody has suggested this is not a very real threat. And so, it is, what are we doing with that threat? What information are we providing to the decision makers? And are they making the appropriate decision with that information? Right now, the government is saying, trust us, we did. And I don't know if that can hold when it is a decision that clearly, had a more positive outcome for the government. So that is the challenge. I am not suggesting that I know the answer to any of this, just trying to frame it a little bit, right? That's why I think, and I don't know if we need a national inquiry. I don't know if we need one of the government, the current apparatus to look at it. I will defer to people who are more well-versed in those government structures to opine on the venue for that. I'm just saying that I think we need someone to look at it because, while we all acknowledge that the election, the results were fair and representative of kind of the vote, we have this lingering, what is happening? And are we managing it appropriately? We know there is a challenge, and do our organizations have what they need to investigate that challenge? And do our governments, the client of that information, have what they need to make the right decisions with the information they are provided? And did they? So that's it for me. Any questions, info@kirschgroup.ca. Like, subscribe. I'll try to put up more videos. Thanks for listening and stay safe.